In about 24 hours, the people of the UK will go in to cast their votes, if they haven't voted already by post, and also if they can be bothered. And who can blame them, because so far things are looking rather confusing for the voter, but also for the politician. And that's putting it mildly. The lines of a song sprang to mind. It's Paul Simon's The Boxer. In the clearing stands a boxer, and a fighter by his trade. And then it goes on, all lies and jests. Still a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. So as the astrologer, I would say that this is the symptom of a massive revolutionary power of the planets Uranus and Pluto, not to mention Saturn, returning to Pluto's sign for another phase of metamorphosis from the corroded, outlived systems and ideologies of a bygone age, which is still oh so close and present in our lives. Their job is to break down, melt down, tear down, and then to renovate, resuscitate, replenish, and rebirth from the raw materials remaining. So in this time of global change, a healthy expression of this energy should probably not be a majority government complacently rooted in the old school way of thinking. There should be a fresh combination of parties working alongside each other, representing a much wider array of people in the UK and outside Britain as well. And of course I would say, as I have said before, that as the age of Aquarius comes in, the female dynamic is going to be coming into our lives in many, many different ways, a lot more strongly. And so that will mean government as well. It may just help a confused voter to realise which stretch of the road we are on at the moment. Astrologically speaking, we're in the run-up to a major shift. Is that exciting, or is it scary? Political systems, including democracy itself, are coming under the light of scrutiny even more, and will be deconstructed where necessary, revolutionized and then reformed. There's not going to be anything sudden or dramatic here. Next up, it could be capitalism or religions across the modern world. It could be both of them at the same time. I'll just run through the charts of the leaders of the various parties in my role as an observer and not a judge, and put my foot on the accelerator. I'll do that because, to be honest with you, I've never had a lot of time for politicians. I find it interesting that all the A-listers in this election have the sun in cardinal signs, and the cardinal signs are undergoing a major reorientation. Aside from Nicola Sturgeon, this transit asks them to leave the past behind and take a giant step forwards in their lives. Nicola will be coming into this phase in 2017 onwards, but there will be rumblings in June to August 2016. The B-listers, that's to say the Green Party, are not cardinal signs. Well, I don't have their birth times, but on their sun and moon they're not cardinal signs, but they do have significant mutable sign energy, which will be influenced by the Saturn transit over the next 2 and a bit years, showing gradual development while surmounting obstacles. Natalie Bennett is an Aquarian, and so she will also feel the energy of Saturn going through Scorpio for the few months between June and September this year. David Cameron. As a double Libran, since the previous election, he has been in the clutches of Uranus-Pluto. The Uranus position shows his reactions will be influenced by the unpredictable energy, often ambushing him, coming through an opposite number or partner, who seems to be there to unseat, scupper, or tarnish his otherwise highly polished, people-pleasing facade. Pluto hasn't finished doing a deep clean of his psyche either, and Saturn and Chiron are niggling him about not being up to the task at hand. Probably goes back to his relationship with his mother, and he will be feeling that pretty strongly in 2017. Cracks will appear in his glossy veneer and long-suppressed horned devils will pop out. Old attitudes imposed by his background and his indoctrination from his class and his status, also buried feelings, are likely to bubble up to the surface and sabotage him as he goes forwards. Having said that, there are some fleeting but positive energies around for him on the day of the election. And what of his sidekick, George Osborne, just a mention of him, with Neptunian mists of delusion and illusion, but also sort of higher service and a feeling of being called, being on a mission. They've been swirling around him since the election in 5 years ago, and swirling around his sun, but also some of his other planets. And he will have felt called, or to be the rescuer or the crusader on a once-in-a-lifetime mission, which he hopes will heal the breach in this country's purse. But due to Neptune's duplicitous nature, he has caused much suffering to those already used to being the victim. Post-election, he's looking rather pressured and somewhat squashed. Ed Miliband. A fateful power struggle on his career point, which is what Clegg has been dealing with for the past 2 years, due to Pluto being in conjunction with his career point. Miliband has about 4 years of that tussle in front of him. Going forward, what will panic Ed most are money matters and material security. His character is tenacious, stubborn, responsible, and rather sneaky. But he is going to feel quietly unnerved about this, and at times unable to make clear-cut decisions. He will dither. The latter possibly because he is on the horns of a dilemma or feeling scuppered or outplayed by another some of the time. Transiting Neptune conjunct his Mars is definitely disempowering, and that transit is going to be hanging around for a couple of years to come. The aforementioned struggle has already been and will continue to be gut-wrenching for him, and he may feel coerced or outmaneuvered at times. So I think he's being very plucky. Astrologically, the force has been with him over the last month, as it happens, of the campaigning, and on the day of the election itself, sensitive emotional moon is conjunct supportive Venus, and the following day, natal sun and transiting moon come together to provide some fleeting inner harmony. It doesn't last long, as Saturn retrogrades onto his Neptune on the 17th, there to stay for 4 months or so, looking like he will be spooked and fearing the worst but hoping for the best. The fact that Miliband has declined the hand of friendship from Nicola Sturgeon shows he is expecting the impossible with a landslide victory for his party, and that just goes to show how utterly disconnected he is to the people of the UK and those very strange times we are living through. Nick Clegg. As mentioned above, Clegg is also a fateful struggle on his career point, which may mean tripping over but hopefully sometimes integrating his own beliefs and values with that of another. Nick has already been dealing with that transit for a couple of years, which is Pluto on his midheaven, and he has a couple of years of that acute phase to go. So he is slam dunk in the middle of shifting into a new embodiment of his worldly role, partly through this and the limiting influence of Saturn in his partnership area. Basically, the layers have been coming off, and he is moving more into, shall we say, a more authentic version of who he wants to be in the world. People and conditions will conspire to manifest these planetary energies in his life. For several months post-election, Clegg will have a limiting, challenging energy in his house of opposite numbers and partners. Nigel Farage. Post-election communications with partners and opposite numbers will be uncertain and unclear. It's likely he will feel undermined. Also, Neptune is causing insecurity regarding his professional position, and he may feel victimized or try playing the innocent bystander who has been sidelined to curry favor. He could also have personal problems. Uranus-Pluto continue to shape-shift his Sun, Aries identity, and he will be inwardly questioning his motives and outwardly gradually redefining his core values in new, more palatable ways. And the more he can bring himself to act selflessly for the common good, the more he will become the master of the situation. Nicola Sturgeon. Her natal chart is a balanced mix of idealism and practical realism, with a reformist streak, and as a Cancerian, like Angela Merkel, she's ferociously protective and caring. She's a creative thinker with a mind as sharp as a meat cleaver. Her Cancerian Sun is still out of range of the destabilizing influence of Uranus-Pluto. However, change is in the wind and will be felt more strongly in 2017-18. On the day of the election itself, supportive Venus will be sandwiched between her Sun and passionate, competitive, masculine Mars, and then over the following days increasingly brings the diplomatic, persuasive side out of her Mercury, which is pretty courageous, being in Leo. But first, the transiting Sun will pass over her Saturn, so she will feel limited and pressured by the opposite numbers and partners. As in Ed Miliband's chart, she will have a lengthy and somewhat stressful transit of Saturn over her Neptune, which has one fearing the worst and hoping for the best. We shall see which one of those two handles it better. Interestingly, their two charts' orientation are mirrors of each other. She must be careful not to slip up on the oily, deceptive surface of transiting Neptune opposing her natal Venus, and be cautious in matters of close relationship, business-type relationship, of course, as well, as a partner or opposite number can be disingenuous and muddy the waters in phases over the next couple of years. Putting personal desires on one side, she will have to show unselfish, unstinting, sometimes, support to another, who she may fundamentally disagree with, in close relationship over this time. Natalie Bennett and Carolyn Lucas. I don't have birth times for either of them, but they look as if they are on a slow but steady uphill climb over the next 2 to 3 years, learning how to be more realistic and savvy in the way they represent their party's policies. How well either of them handles the obstacles will be a matter of character and emotional stability. Alex Salmon. Penetrating, insightful with the current transit of Pluto on his Mercury in conjunct his relationship axis. Much will be revealed to Alex Salmon over this next year, and he could be lethal in what he triggers and exposes deep in the English psyche at Westminster and beyond. Neptune transiting his career point over the coming years will make demands on his ability to be selfless and sometimes sacrificing in his expression, both at home and in his personal life and across the wider stage. But he will tend to have great influence through speaking and writing, and he will have a lot to tolerate as well. So that's it. That's my little look at this, the contenders, the major contenders in this election campaign. By the time you read this, or because it's written on my website, or listen to this, the election will be over, but we'll just see how things pan out post-election. And during this kind of turning point moment, at this very important ending of one era and beginning of another on our planet, I shall be very interested to see actually the outcome of this election as a reflection of what's going on across a wider stage in affecting the whole of our, not only our planet, but our solar system, really. Because, you know, this is no ordinary day on planet Earth. And I have also heard, and those of you in the UK listen to this, that Sandy Toksvig, who has us rolling in the aisles with laughter, she's a very funny lady who hosts the news quiz on the radio, but also she does other things as well. She's standing down from that, and she's helping to form a political party that's going to be in the 2020 election. So I think I shall be very, very interested to see how that pans out. And she already has my vote. So I hope that was of interest to you. And I'll see you the next time.